If you've tried budgeting before and it just didn't stick, you are not alone. Most people don't fail budgeting because they're bad with money. They fail because the system they're using is too complicated, too restrictive, or doesn't give them the freedom they're looking for. And that's exactly where Monarch comes in. In my opinion, this is one of the best all-in-one budgeting apps because it combines budgeting, net worth tracking, investment tracking, and goal planning all in one clean system. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up Monarch step by step, how I personally use it, and why I believe it's better than most other budgeting apps out there right now. And if you'd like to download Monarch and get set up alongside this video, I'll leave a referral code down below where you can save 50% off your first year. So let's jump in. Before we jump into the walkthrough, let's quickly define what Monarch actually is. Monarch is a paid budgeting and financial tracking app that pulls all of your accounts into one single place so you can see your entire financial picture in real time. That includes bank accounts, credit cards, loans, investments, even real estate. And once everything is connected, you can track your spending, build a flexible budget catered to you, monitor your net worth, and set financial goals, all in one dashboard. And this is why Monarch has become one of the top budget apps. So let's actually set one up. So once you click the link down in the description, it's going to bring you to this page where you can get that 50% off referral code. So we're going to click grab your discount. So here you're going to say continue with Apple, continue with Google, or creating your email address and password to log in. So let's make that happen and we'll jump into the dashboard. So once you get signed in, this is the page you're going to land on. Now it won't exactly look like this because we haven't gone and connected our accounts or seen through the transactions yet. So let's jump into this account menu on the left-hand side. This will be empty for you, and that's where we're going to click add account. Now, one thing that Monarch truly shines on is their ability to connect to as many institutions out there as possible, over 13,000. So that's all the banks, your investments. It connects to Zillow to bring in the Zillow's estimate, the property value of your home to help find your real net worth, including real estate. You can even connect any company equity, which is a new feature. So if you have any like private equity that you own in a certain amount of company, you can enter it in here. So go ahead and go through your accounts and get connected. So once you have your accounts connected, you'll have your checking accounts, savings accounts, a high yield savings if you have one at a different bank, your Fidelity, Vanguard, or Charles Schwab investment accounts. After we finally connect everything, before we go anywhere else, we actually want to go into the settings. So we'll click down here in the bottom left and we're going to click settings. It's going to bring up a profile. We're going to go through it, a display where you can choose light, dark, or system preference. This is where it's light during the day, dark at night. You'll have different notifications. So if account gets disconnected, I recommend this. So you can just get back in, log into the account, reconnect it to Monarch, and you're back up and running in no time. If you have a certain deposits that you want to be notified every time a paycheck hits, you can turn those on. If you have a certain size of expense, saying, hey, if I have an expense that happens to be over $1,000, send me a notification. You can totally do that. Transactions that need review, I would keep this one on. So that way, you know, when it brings in new transactions, so you can go through them really quickly. Mine takes less than 30 seconds every day. So definitely connect this so you know right away, and then you can stay on top of it really quick. It takes no time at all. Then daily top movers, I turn these off. It's not really something I like to go for, but if you want to turn them on, you totally can. If you exceed a certain budget, so say you have a planned lawn care budget for the spring, you totally forgot the fertilizer guy was coming out this month, so it ends up going over budget, this will notify you. So you can just go in and reallocate funds. Flexible budget, there is a kind of a fixed and flexible budget option here in Monarch. I'll show you that later, but you can turn these on. Then new accounts, you can go through these and turn them on and off based on your preferences. And then we'll jump into, say, general. This is where it'll show your household name in case you have you, your wife, your family as making accounts. We'll go through that in the members, and then you can give your address. I personally don't. You don't need to if you don't want to. When we click members, in this particular household members, you can click add another member for free. So if you want to add your spouse or any children to the account, that way you can all budget together. You can give access to a financial advisor, financial coach like myself through here. You can auto revoke it at any time, or it just auto expires at the end of a year. So I have clients that are saying, hey, I'll give you access for the next 60 days to help me. And then they revoke it and they're off and running. Just super quick to get back on track and then off to the races. So we'll go through preferences. This is where you want to mark new transactions as need review. I would leave this one on so that way you get that push notification. Mark uncategorized transactions as need review. Definitely don't leave anything as uncategorized. You're going to want to allocate it to a category, and then allow edits to pending transactions. You also want to leave this on. If you run into, say, a situation where there's a federal holiday and the banks are closed on Friday and Monday, you may not remember the exact thing you bought at Target on a Wednesday or a Thursday, by the next Tuesday when it posts at the bank. So during that time, it'll bring it in under pending, and until it posts, you've already allocated it. So when it posts, it's already good. Then you the AI assistant. So we'll actually cover this later in the video. It's actually really cool where if you wanted to talk and saying, hey, can you help me with my budget where I need help? The AI assistant can help. And then Monarch Labs, this is where your investment transactions, I would turn this on if you don't trade a lot within your investment accounts. If you're putting money every month into a Roth IRA or a 529 plan, this is very helpful. Now, I personally have it turned off because I do a daily investing challenge and have dividends, money market funds. It gets pretty messy and congested here in Monarch when I have it on. So I particularly turned it off, but if you're just putting money away and forgetting about it and investing it, this would definitely be a good one to turn on so you can allocate it to savings goals and then just aggregated statistics in case Monarch wants to help keep track and how they can make better products. So you can leave that on. Institution is just any connected banks and if they're issuing any, or if they have any reported issues. So you could say here saying this one, it says crypto accounts are not supported from Fidelity to here. That's fine. I don't do a lot of my crypto investing within Fidelity. Now here's where we want to hit first. So categories is where we're going to do the bulk of our upfront work. So first we'll start off with income. You'll have your paychecks or any business income you make, any interest that the banks pay your savings accounts or checking accounts. Then you have other income, and then you can create categories like rental income or investment income. You would do that by clicking create category. Say we sell things on Facebook Marketplace, and then we categorize it as income. We pick a little emoji, say we'll put it as a bank because we're making money, and then we click save, and it'll update the category that we can then put a budget if we routinely sell things on Facebook Marketplace. You can also create different groups if you want. I don't need to create a different income group. However, that might be particular in the case of expenses. So when it comes to your expenses, we usually find that the majority of your expenses are in multiple categories, such as in housing, your cars, and then travel and food. It's going to be like your main 4 categories that get the majority of your expense. So when we go and looking through housing expense, you'll have your mortgage, home insurance, property taxes. We can bring that up here. As you can see here, you can click and drag these around, whichever one works for you. If you have your mortgage payment all escrowed together with your insurance, property taxes, I would actually de-escrow it, and I'll go through briefly why. Your mortgage will usually be fixed if you have a 30-year, 15-year fixed rate mortgage. Your home insurance and property taxes are going to be variable. They will tend to go up over years. Sometimes they go down. Mine actually went down like $50 a year in the past couple of years. But for home insurance, this is something you're going to want to give to, say, a broker to go shop around. Certain insurance companies, they lose money if your state is located, say, in Tornado Alley or in Florida where there's hurricanes, where they up the premiums drastically. Well, a broker would be able to shop it around and tell you, saying, hey, if we move you from this company to this company, I can save you $300 or even $700 this year. And that's huge. And it's kind of a difficult thing if you have it all escrowed together with your mortgage company. So if you de-escrow it saying, hey, I'll take this over, usually your broker will still allow you to make monthly payments. They'll just be separate from your mortgage. And then property taxes, you'll create a rollover fund. So whenever they do pop up, it's not just some large expense you forgot about. It's already in the savings account set aside. So that's why I would de-escrow it. It can save you money in the long run. So if you keep it escrowed, totally worth it. You can still split the transaction up inside of here. I can show you how to do that. But that's the reason why I do, is because usually your housing is 45%, between 25 and 45% of your total gross income. So this is a large expense that we'll want to keep track of. You can also have your gas and electric, your water, your garbage if you pay for any like additional cans or anything. Home improvement, I'll show you the reason why setting up a rollover fund for home improvement is really big. And then if you have any pest control, lawn care, rent expense or moving expenses if you're moving soon. And if you want to say have a different category that's going to be coming up, say you will be moving, you'll just go here, create a moving expense. You can even put like, oh, there's going to be a moving truck, and then you can create a rollover fund, which I wouldn't really recommend for a moving expense, or you can exclude it from the budget altogether. Not many cases where you would do that either. You would click save, and it would just be in the group for housing, not auto, food, or dining. You can also just drag it and move it around. So, if we were to drag it and move it around here, we could also do that. Now, this is usually a one-time thing over several different years or decades. So this is why I moved it here at the bottom. It's not frequent. So then we come down, same thing, auto and transport. You have your auto payment, auto insurance, auto maintenance. I would highly recommend creating an auto maintenance one. You can also do that in goals, and I'll show you there. But with auto maintenance here, I usually create a rollover fund because eventually you're going to need tires. Eventually you're going to have an oil change on your car. You will want that here. And then vehicle registration. If you're in one of the lucky states that has like a $15 registration fee, that's awesome. Great for you. In my particular state, ours are based on valuations of what you bought the car for. So in this last particular year for our 2 vehicles in the family, it cost us almost $1,000 a year to register our 2 vehicles just because of how our state works. So I don't want that $1,000 bill coming in the mail just all of a sudden in August when we're planning a vacation and now we're short that month or just running a little tight. So I run this as a rollover fund. So when it does come out, I have the money saved up. Car wash, I have a Tesla, so I use Tesla electricity in case I'm charging at a supercharger, and then gas, parking tolls, and in case you have to Uber anywhere. If you do public transit, so say we can activate this budget. If you do take the bus, you can run it through here. For us in Iowa, it's not something we normally do. So I can actually disable this category. And when you hit disable, this is no longer see public transit as a category. It will tell you there are 7 transactions that we have found in this category. Would you like to reallocate? And you can. So you can move those transactions so it doesn't mess up your reporting. So we'll go ahead and disable since we don't use it a lot. So when it comes to fooding and dining, you want to keep track of your grocery expense, your dining out, and then any coffee shops or anything else extra. The reason why I break up restaurants and fast food and groceries is groceries should be the bulk of your food spend. And then I hit restaurants and fast food. The difference for me is restaurants or when you sit down at a restaurant. So say Olive Garden when you're sitting down is restaurants. If I'm picking Olive Garden up and bringing it home, that's fast food for me. The reason why I break it down is I'm trying to prioritize date nights and sitting down with the family at restaurants. I'm pretty guilty of being busy and always just trying to get food to the house. So I don't allocate a lot of money towards fast food. I try to allocate more towards restaurants just so I can actively prioritize being with them out eating. So that's why I particularly do this. You don't have to. You could put like a dining out budget and that's it. Make it simple. And then coffee shop, just because my wife and I sometimes will go out and work remote and I want to track those separately. So that's why I have that there. Then you have bills. This would be like internet and cable, subscriptions. I put my phone bill here. Say if you want to move internet and cable up to a house. So we can actually move this up to say a housing expense if we want it there. I actually pay for internet through one of my companies. So I will leave that down here. Just because we don't get a lot of transactions through there. So I just leave it under bills. Travel and lifestyle. This is another big expense for many people. The reason why I love Monarch and rollover funds in particularly is because I can put a little money each month towards this travel and vacation fund. So that way at the end of a year, we can actively plan the next family vacation because I know the money's there. Usually we're pretty guilty of just, when we have this much money in a savings account, then we'll take a vacation. Well, that may happen in a bunch of different categories. This makes it more active. It says, okay, I do have $5,000 for traveling already set aside. And now there's less guilt involved. Then you have entertainment recreation. This is if you take them out to see a movie at the movie theater, or if there's any extracurricular activities you like doing, you could put them under entertainment. Then any personal or pets or fun money you can have there. Children, you can have childcare activities, saying extracurricular activities like soccer or taekwondo, you could put them here. I made this one at lunch money at school. So rather than putting that in the food budget, I want to know how much money I'm actually putting into lunch accounts. This actually became pertinent during a time when we actually noticed that one of the accounts was being drained faster. So I was able to call the school and kind of hash that out, but it was because it was being tracked. So then we come down to shopping. This is if you do any sort of shopping at Target, Walmart, if you're buying a certain amount of clothing each year, if you want to allocate, like I need new clothes every so often, you could put that here. And then furniture, if you're buying furniture every now and then for a new house, or electronics. And then you have health and wellness. Now I'll show you how I do this in particular. So you could have medical, dentist, fitness. So if you have a gym membership, haircuts, I added this one in as kind of just a health and wellness because I do get haircuts pretty often. And then dental insurance, I went ahead and put down here as well. Gifts, donations, if you tithe to your church, that would be in this category. And then any education, financial. The reason why I put a lot of these down here is they don't get used often. So I pretty much live in the top 60% of my budget the majority of the time, but these are still there in case I need them. And then for your merchants, this would be just in a lot of different places that you've purchased in the past. This would be the list of them. And then any rules, I'll show you how to do that in the transactions here in a second. This would be that you would find the rules, you'd be able to delete them in here. So we're going to go to the transactions tab here on the left. So after you sign up for Monarch, it will usually pull in the last 2 years of transactions of all the accounts that you've signed up for. So make sure you connect every single account, because otherwise it won't bring all of them in. So you'll notice that there will be months that you'll have missing income. There will be months where you have missing expenses. Nothing will be accurate. So you're going to want to connect every credit card, every bank account that you've had within the last few years, as long as those accounts are still active with that bank. Now, once we get here, you'll see a bunch of different transactions. They're going to be all over the place. The first thing we're going to want to do is go sort date old to new. And the reason we do that is, for instance, when we start up here, you'll see that it pulled in from 2023 was originally when we had Monarch Money. We signed up in 2025. It pulled back 2 years prior. We went through every single one of them, made sure they were 100% correct, because this is where all your cash flow, all your reports are going to be pulling from. If you want those to be accurate, you'll want to start as far back as you can. You don't have to. You could start saying, hey, from this year moving forward, you only have to start in 2026. Or you can go back all the way like I did. It doesn't take long. It took me about 3 hours of sitting down watching a movie just to go down through all these, because they're pretty easy to notice. Like, for instance, this Hibachi grill, we know that that was probably a restaurant. It was sitting down. We can put fast food in case we were taking it out, but it's a restaurant. Now, when I click restaurants, you'll see this little pop up, and this is create rule. The reason why I bring this up, and this is going to make your life so much easier moving forward, when Monarch Money finds a transaction where it matches a certain vendor that comes in, you can say, every time you see this vendor allocated to this category, and this would be restaurants. And then you'll see a certain, say we'll go down to fast food here. Okay. So after I change it to fast food, you say apply to 8 changes to existing transactions. Okay. It found 8 other transactions that all match this. Then now I no longer have to categorize if I check this box and click save, right? Or I can go back to restaurants, because that's truly what it is, and you won't see that box anymore, right? Now, if it's a certain vendor, that might be one or the other. Let's see if we can find one here. So say we go to Target down here. Target could be groceries. Target could be shopping, right? It could be home decor if you want to track home decor. So if we were to go here, we could say, oh, this would be shopping. Now, what if we do 2 different things in one time? While I was at Target, I shopped for clothes for the kids, and then I also bought groceries while I was there. You can actually split this transaction into 2 different sections. So in the first one, we'll say $30 was for shopping for the kids' clothes. We can even put this as clothing. And then we can put down here, this was groceries. Cool part is if you have multiple different transactions, you can actually just copy the amount left over and paste in there, and it zeroes out. So now that we have these, when you hit split into 2 transactions, it will split half into clothing and the other part into groceries all by itself. So this is really cool. If you use it, you remember it, you turn on pending transactions, saying, hey, while I have this pending transaction from Target, I remember that so much was clothes and so much was groceries. I'll go ahead and split it into transactions while it's pending. So when it posts, it's already done. It's already allocated. We're going to leave it as shopping. This one is at restaurants. So as you go down and you get these, so say you have certain registration costs, if you have a mortgage that comes in, at this particular point in time, I didn't de-escrow my mortgage. So I went through and I split the transaction. This is where you would have, I could open the split and saying we had $3,441, $999.50 was property taxes, $300 was home insurance, and $2,141 is 86 cents was the mortgage. We know that, especially that's the number that we now see. And this home insurance was around $300, which is normally what I budget if you followed the budget series. So that's where split comes in. You can unsplit these and just put them all back into one transaction if you want. I recommend splitting them up so you can track each particular difference. And even better is just de-escrow them all together and shop your insurance around. You can usually get a way better rate, especially if you pay for a year ahead of time. So you'll go through all your transactions, and once all of them are reallocated, then we could finally go and live in our budget. Now that we're in our budget, this is where Monarch is better than most other apps. Instead of forcing you into this strict system where money comes in and you have to give it a job and it can't be any more or any less and there's no rollover, this is a little different. Monarch uses either a fixed or flexible budgeting approach. So if we were to here in this top right-hand corner, you can click settings. You can do a flex budget or you can do a category budget. I highly recommend a category budget. You want to know all of the categories and the totals and create rollover funds for some of these. right? And I'll show you exactly how. Now, by default, when you change budgets around, you can do just this month only and it re-zeros for next month. I wouldn't use this particular one. I would want to use it for all future months, because usually if you're changing something this month, that's kind of planned on moving forward. And plus then it kind of gives you a ballpark number of what it'll be like in the future. So if we change a particular category, say water or gas, now that say irrigation is on, we know our water bill is going to be higher. We want it to change in future months going forward. We can always change it later in the winter. So I'll leave all future months here. If you went through all of your transactions from oldest to new, and you can trust with 90% certainty that your transactions are accurate, you can click recalculate here and it'll give you the averages. Based on the past transactions, this is what we've seen for these categories. So that's really good. That's why I kind of just left the all future months on, is because I know it's gonna be pretty accurate because I'm going through them so often anyway. And then you can clear all budget values, where if you wanted just to completely start over, wipe it, start from now, it says we're gonna start in April 2026 and then move forward. So that is something you can all do here from the settings tab. Then you can even see, so I'll give you a brief rundown. You have it by month. This is where I live. You can look at it by year. So if in the course of this year, by month, we know this is much for paychecks, this for business income, and then each particular category. Neat that you're able to do that. I don't live here, so like I don't really use it that often. And then if you wanted to change by year, so in the last 10 years, how did each year particularly stack up? It's kind of neat if you wanted to go back to say 2024 or 2023 and look those up, saying in 2025, we can make so much. Most of that's going to be paychecks. Then you have business income, any distributions we took, any interest that the bank paid us. We can even go back to 2024, see how it stacked up. We are on the decline. Okay, it was a busy year and now we're less, but that's okay. And then 2023, it didn't bring in all the transactions. That's why it's, so this is cool that you can kind of watch by the year. We don't really use it much. You could even go out by decade, where it kind of gives you the breakdown every year. I don't live there either. So after we go through all of the transactions, what we're actually going to do is the furthest month way back, we're going to go through and we're going to say, hey, this is going to be where we're starting over. So for instance, if we say started in February and now we're going to work towards, you will want to go back to February of 2026 or April of 2020, whatever. So whenever you're going to go through your budget, I would highly recommend going all the way back to the year of which you landed. So if it pulled in all the data from 2 years prior, so that would make it April 2024, you would go maybe to the month before that, because it might be missing some transactions, or after that. So you'll say May of 2024, we're going to start there, and I'll show you why. So as we go down through paychecks, we know what they hit. This is going to be all the income, then expenses. You'll see business income, you'll match it, $7. So you'll see maybe here, you'll have all this zeroed out. The reason why that's red is because of all the expenses that are already allocated. So once you expand all these, you know that we had some income, the actual income that hit. So we'll reallocate that. So we'll say 8,274. Now you could apply it to all future months, which would be a good idea in this particular case. Now, business income, 5,246, seems to be kind of a normal distribution we take at the moment. So we're going to apply that to all future months. And then $7, that tends to vary based on the amount of money that we have in the savings accounts. So I'll uncheck that and then add it there. Now, if you don't have any particular transactions for other income, rent income, or investment income, this will show zeros, and that's fine. We can collapse it, and it just makes it cleaner so we don't have to look at it. Now, here's where your expenses comes in. So your mortgage, we know what that's going to be. Usually hits on the first, so we allocate it. Now, home insurance, the reason why I create this rollover fund, so if we were to go over here, this was created to start in August of 2024 at a certain balance. When I give $300 every month that we allocate, it's adding up. So that way, eventually, this month, I won't be paying for insurance. Next month, I won't be paying for insurance. Come June or July, we'll get the call from the broker and they're saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is how much it'll be. And we know we already have the money set aside. Now, when we move this, so I say I want to actually allocate 500 this month, not every month. So we're going to uncheck that box. You'll see that this increased because we had 2,500 from last month plus the 500 we just allocated. Now we're at $3,000. So that's part of it. And you saw that it auto deducted from what was left to budget here. So we're going to go back to 300 because that is what we use every month just to set aside. And it ends up around that $3,000 that we know we're going to be heading into next year. So we know that. Gas and electric, this one was particular. So we budgeted $250 every month and we only came in at 83. So we'll actually reduce this instead of having a rollover fund for extra next month because it's not something that just continually rises for a future date. So we'll put this at 83. It's now most likely not going to be the bill next year or next month. So we're going to go ahead and decheck that box. And then you see it added back to the left of budget. So as you go through down your housing expenses, you'll see water, home improvement. This is something I set money aside for, $200, and it rolls over. So eventually when you have a big renovation, or when, not if, a problem happens, whether it's plumbing, water heater, furnace, AC, whatever, you have the money set aside. I set this up in a rollover fund just because I like to see it right here. And when I spend it, it zeroes out. It's really simple. I don't have to use any particular goals for it. And then you can go down through auto transport, your car payments, car insurance, same thing. I use a rollover fund here for the 2 cars, auto maintenance, similar to home improvement, and then vehicle registration, same thing. The reason why we had rollover is 576 came from the previous month, added to our $100 that we had allocated. And then this month we had to register the vehicle. So when we registered, I just had to add $3, not $679, to this particular budget, and it zeroed out for the year. That's why I like rollover funds. And then I filled up my wife's van, so we got $40 in gas there. And then groceries. You'll see that for the rest of this month, we haven't quite hit our grocery budget yet. And that's okay. One of the best reasons, and this is how budgets shouldn't feel so restrictive, is I see that I have $400 allocated for restaurants. That's where I sit down with my family. I've only spent $295, and that's including the time we just went out yesterday morning. So now I know that I can have $105 guilt-free to take my family out to eat. That's why I really like keeping this budget here, is yes, I know I still have money left over, but for this particular category, guilt-free, I've already allocated it and we're good. Fast food, you see that I'm trying not to go out and grab fast food as much. So you see I'm still under budget here. And then coffee shops, we just know that, we've spent a little bit of money at coffee shops, and that's fine. I just want to be able to keep track of them. Phone bill, we know all these, travel, vacation funds. So if you're a traveler or you've been wanting to travel, this is where the rollover fund really comes in. So you'll see, I click here, you'll see that in February, we ended up booking some stuff for the fall vacation that we have coming up. So we booked $3,982 worth. And then we took a little trip in March, but still with allocating, we still have, 1,100 that we brought over from last month and then added to the 1,000 we're saving. So by the time that we end up in our fall vacation, we actually have enough money where we'll be guilt-free and not worried about running out of money by the time that vacation comes, because we've already planned ahead. So if we come down to the very bottom, you say the save up goals. So this is where we can actually head to the goals. So in this is the goals 3.0 for Monarch. This is recently released. So we'll go ahead and add a goal together. So I'll show you, add a goal. We're going to add a car goal. Say we want to buy a new car next year. We're going to continue. We'll put Blake new car, and we'll say the target amount is to add in with selling my current car, we'll say $25,000. And we're going to put for, say, summer of 28. We'll put it 2 years out. And if we have to spend any money from this goal, say something emergency pops up, we want it to deduct back from the goal. So we want this on. Then we want to allocate an account. We'll say from a savings that we're saving up for, we don't want to use all the balance, and it'll give you the balance in that savings goal, but we don't want to allocate all of it. I usually have one savings that holds a good bit of money for all my sinking funds. So we're only going to allocate, say, $5,000 that we have set aside for this new car. And then you'll see that auto deduct here and give you the estimated savings that we need per month. And we'll continue. Blake new car, general contribution, $741. And it says we're on track for that. And if it's at risk, so say we need to really start putting more money for this goal in order to hit the target of that summer of 2028, this is where it would tell you, and then we'll continue the goal. So we'll go to view goals, and now we have a retirement goal with our Roth IRA, and then Blake new car goal of $5,000 out of, $25,000 that we want to save. So, and then it says, we have this much allocated for goals, but that's not including your sinking funds that are inside of your rollovers. It's just that we're not fully using the goal feature. So just know that going forward. Another thing we can check here is the recurring transactions. So if you have transactions where the AI behind Monarch has detected saying, hey, we've detected these particular vendors hitting your accounts often, like say insurance or your mortgage, it will come in and throw in this recurring transaction feature for you. This isn't something I use often. You might if you wanted to set it up. But here it's, Netflix, Verizon, I tend to know these. It doesn't add up to a bunch of money, minus the mortgage. But the main feature, the reason why you would want to use recurring transactions is for the calendar. So you would know on the 1st, American Family hits. On Friday, Rocket Mortgage hits by the 3rd. It's usually between the 1st and the 3rd. Then you have Paramount hit by the 1st and the 4th. This is really good to see in case you know that you need to have a certain amount of money, like $2,141 saved up by the 3rd of the month. Like you would need to know that. So that's actually a pretty cool feature. Otherwise, it's not something that I really use all the time, but it's there if you want it. So let's go ahead and check out the cash flow feature. So cash flow feature in my mind, minus the graph up here, I really like the way that this is viewed. It gives you your income, your expenses, what your savings are, and then your savings rate. Any savings rate above, say, 15% to 30%. 30% is great. 15% is awesome. You want to get there. And especially earlier in life, as we get older, we'll want to increase this if we're really trying to pump out in saving and investing for retirement. But so out of your paychecks, it'll give you out of all of income, paychecks were 61.2% of the income, and then business income was the other 38.8%, and then a tiny bit from interest. I really like this view to where out of all my expenses, I could see that I spend the majority on my mortgage. So if we were to work off to pay the mortgage off, that's 40% of all our expenses that would be gone. So that's a really good way to know. I really like the bar charts and how it breaks it down by category. Now, so you can use this bar chart or you can use the Sankey diagram where it shows the same thing kind of broken down. I'll show you this in the reports menu. So paychecks here, I'll show you like 65% of your income and 34%, same thing. And then it divides out all your expenses on this side. So you could do that in reports is where we'll filter it out to, this will give you like the total since you've been using, and we'll go to just this year, or you can go to last year, last month, this month compared. We'll say this year to make it easy. We'll say we've already made $53,000. We've spent $30,000 total net income and savings rate. I like this report feature just a tiny bit better because it'll give you your paychecks, your income, all income put together, and then it divides out what you've spent based on that. Sometimes it's really nice to know kind of based on my expenses, what is the largest percentage of my expenses I'm spending. Other times it's nice to know in what category, say housing or travel and lifestyle or food and dining, is my biggest expense. So it's nice to see that savings is something we're really taking priority on. And then if we wanted to pay off the mortgage, we would save a lot in this housing category. If we say maybe instead of going on vacations every year, we want to do once every other year, this would decrease. We can really crank down on some of these subcategories and find out where the money's going based on this diagram. It's kind of just neat to see. I really wish they would put like a bar chart instead. I'm just going to give you a different options, but yeah, so you can break it down. And then here's kind of the bar chart saying, here's your income, your expenses, and your net and savings. But yeah, so otherwise, Sankey diagram works great. I really like to use it. You can spend a lot of time in the spending. If you want to see a pie chart, you can show all categories if you'd like, and it really dives deep into your mortgage, your travel and vacation fund, your car payments, groceries, shopping. You can really dive into each particular category and then go through the transactions down below to make sure everything was allocated correctly in case you see something that might be fishy. So really cool to use. And then income, you won't spend much time here because you usually know where you're making money. So just know that going forward. Now we can go through the main dashboard that'll give you a brief summary of all the data that we've now ensured are correct. This is where you'll see net worth, recent transactions, account balances, cash flow, even your credit score if you enable the feature. Now, this is one of the main features of Monarch because most people have never seen all their finances all in one place before. So if we're here in the dashboard, you can actually drag these around if you want to see them in a certain way. So say I want to see my spending and how I'm allocating from this month versus last month. I know that we're down. So I'm ahead compared to last month. If I want to see my budget first, saying, hey, just give me a brief overview of where I'm at for this month to make sure I'm still hitting my goals. And if I see any of these in the red, now I need to go back to my budget tab and see what's going on. So you can even check your credit score, which is actually pretty cool. So I enabled this feature, 764 credit score, which is about accurate. And the one thing that does tell you is this is the Vantage Score 3.0 through Equifax. So not through TransUnion or Experian. So just know that going ahead, this isn't 100% your credit score, depending on what you're getting it drawn for, whether it's an auto loan, a personal loan, a mortgage. So then you can see a brief overview of any investments if you want it, goals if you have them saved, like new car, that's the one we just made, and then retirement, we can see it here. If you wanted to customize it here, we can put on like, I want a getting start guide here. I'll activate that, and I want that first and foremost. Well, it's not something we use a lot, so we'll go ahead and deactivate it and move it down to the bottom, and then you could deactivate or reactivate and move any of these in the customize menu right here in the top right hand corner. Okay, so one important feature that we're going to want to look at here is investments. Now, so just know that Monarch's investment tab here is not as good as, say, Empowers or Boldens or anyone that's kind of really leaning towards the investment side of things. It's really good because you can still see a breakdown of, what your allocations are, whether it's fixed income, cash. You can kind of play around with the graph saying, hey, how does my portfolio stack up against the S&P 500? How does it stack up against the US stock market or even US bond, right? So it's kind of cool that you could see it. You could play with the timelines down to 6 months. Oh, I want to know year to date. Oh, I want to know for the last 12 months. You can see how your stocks have actually performed based on various metrics. You can even click allocation here if you wanted to see, how much is fixed income, equities, cash equivalents. This is my SPACs or money market funds. You can see that they held my SGov, my treasuries within fixed income, and then the stocks that I actually own, the index funds of VTI, total stock market, and then total stock market for Fidelity and my Roth IRA, and then the FXAIX, the S&P 500 index fund that I hold. Now, if you wanted to add, say, a manual holding that you have, you can actually click up here in the top right-hand corner. You can click, oh, I own $1. You can give it, the quantity of how much you actually hold and in which account you hold it. And you could do a new manual account. And instead of decide, say it's more of like a private equity, like I own 50% of this company that's worth this much money in a manual account. And then you can adjust that if you want to tie it into one dashboard. That is something you could do. I don't particularly have that just because it can kind of muddy it up and it just adds steps that I have to keep track of. So just know that it's a possibility. Now let's answer the real question. How does Monarch compare to other budgeting apps? Well, compared to Empower, Monarch is much better for budgeting, but Empower is better for the investing side. Now, compared to YNAB or Everydollar, Monarch is much more flexible. You saw that I still had plenty left to budget this month, whereas YNAB and Everydollar, they like to give every dollar a job and allocate it to a category. I don't have to do that here. Now, compared to free apps like Empower or Rocketmoney, Monarch has no ads, no upsells, and it doesn't sell your data. And that is a huge deal, not having to deal with getting pitched something left and right. Because with free apps, you are usually the product that they're making money from. With Monarch, you're paying for a clean system that actually works. Now let's talk about the downside. Monarch is not free. For the monthly plan, it costs around $14.99 per month, but if you pay for the annual plan, it's around $99 per year or a little over $8 a month. There's also a 7-day free trial so that you can test it out. Now, some people won't like that, but here's how I look at it. If this app helps you save even just $100 per year, it pays for itself instantly. So who should actually use Monarch? People serious about improving their finances, couples managing money together, anyone who wants a clear system, and people tired of using spreadsheets or combing through bank and credit card statements to remember transactions that were made more than 30 days ago. Now, who should skip Monarch? If you want a completely free app, if you want super strict budgeting rules utilizing a zero-based budgeting method like YNAB or Everydollar, they would probably be a better suit for you. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to find the perfect app. The goal is to find a system that you'll actually use consistently. And for a lot of people, Monarch is that system. Now, if you want to try Monarch, I'll leave a link down in the description below where you can get that 50% off your first year. And if you want to help actually building your budget and making money work for you, that's exactly what I help my coaching clients do. I'll leave a link down in the description below to book a free call. And if you want to see how I personally budget month to month, check out our budget series here, and I'll see you over there.